Intertwining Threads is a community project which aims to celebrate the industrial heritage of Bailiff Bridge and its carpet manufacture. It aims to bring together ex-workers and their proudful memories of place with newcomers to the village who know not as much about Firth Carpets and its proud industrial heritage. Like lots of people who worked at Firth Carpets, my family worked here. My mother worked here, my stepfather worked here, my mum's sisters worked here, and I worked here in the university holidays. Many people who worked at Firths also had fathers, uncles, sisters, brothers working at the mill. And really the seed for the project began when one day, after everything had closed, me and Dad were driving up Birkby Lane with all the demolished mill buildings to our left, and I could feel his sadness. And it made me think about all the other people who worked at Firth Carpets and what they must have felt when the mill buildings were all closed, after the large iconic Clifton Mill was demolished at the centre of the village, and their community of workers and all the social activities that people used to do at Firths came to a close, and what had happened to community. I began research here in 2016 with focus groups and walk and talk tours of the village where workers shared memories of what the village used to be like. And we talked about what life was like before demolition, and then we talked about what it was like today, when the smell of carpets had disappeared, when the sound of the looms was no more. And what you could feel and hear was people passing through and new buildings over the once mills where new people have moved into the community. And so this project is designed to try to bring those two halves of the community together through art making workshops. And what Catherine and I designed was a project whereby we could make art in workshop settings based around the language and hand gestures of carpet making and communication, and to pass on those skills and to start a conversation about what it meant to live and work in this community.
So as an artist, a lot of my work is looking at history. So I do a lot of work in museums and historic sites, and I'm really interested in sort of trying to tease out things that get sort of lost, the stories, narratives that get hidden and forgotten. And so I was really interested in Lisa's research because it was looking at more recent history, I guess, living history if you like. I'm originally from Bailiff Bridge, so I grew up just up the road from the factory. I've not really made work where I brought in my own memories of a place. I was kind of quite interested in the idea of what happened within the building, so how people work. And then I asked the ex-workers to bring in any tools. A lot of them had kept tools like needles or bits of carpet or pliers, and so they brought those to the workshop, and then I just photographed them, demonstrating really how they would use these tools, what they would do with their hands. A lot of people talked about when they first started working in the factories, they'd spend the first day learning to tie a weaver's knot. So while the photographs had been taken, they were really sort of talking, me and the photographer, through that process. That's become quite a sort of symbolic of bringing communities together. Most of the factory buildings, the mill buildings, have all been demolished, apart from one, which is Clifton House. It was a kind of office building, it was where the managers were based. And within that building, we're sat in the old boardroom of Firth Carpets and placing these images of the hands of people that worked there within this kind of environment. So that felt quite important. It felt like it was kind of bringing value to these acts of labour, I suppose. It's just a way of bringing people into this space, which is now used as offices. So it's not a public space. It's not a space that people locally come into. They probably walk past it every day, but they don't ever come into it. So it was a kind of way of opening up the history further through the building. And as you enter the building, you know, you start to see artefacts from its former life as the kind of the managerial centre of Firth Carpets. You know, the mission statement on the wall, there's still carpets on the floor. It's quite affluent, I suppose, the interior. So it gives you that sense of prestige and importance that the factory had.
When I did some local engagement with Bailiff Bridge Junior and Infant School, I didn't expect that children would have any language of carpet making. But actually what I found was that children were much more cognizant of yarn, of looms, of the heritage of this place, and that many of their relatives had worked at Firth and that they felt proud to be able to say that within the sessions that we did in the school. If you look at textiles, cotton is well researched. There's much less attention to carpet manufacture in Britain, and this project insists that we remember carpet making in the north.
I can remember my first day was spent tying knots. You see, I was a creeler, and until you could do that, of course, you couldn't do your job. In summer, when you had the windows open, you could hear the noise of the looms all night, the smell of yarn and all that sort of thing.
I'll never forget Christmas, because we always used to go to the local pub, the Punch Bowl Hotel, and we had the office party there, and all the directors served us. They were all the waiters and waitresses, and it was lovely, you know, it was like working for a family. It was lovely.
I'd worked at Firth Carpets for 40 years in the design department, ending up as a design studio manager. Just about everyone in Bailiff Bridge either worked at Firth's or knew someone who worked at Firth's. To give an example of how they looked after its workers, the local park at Bailiff Bridge was gifted to the community by Firth.
So yeah, these houses are built on where the weaving sheds were, or the mending, where the mending used to be. You know, I think it's quite good that they're actually living on top of a lot of history.
We know when we walk up the road exactly. To us, we see the new houses, but we still see the mill.